On the morning of May 26, 1990, Marlene Warren and her son Joe were going about their day in their serene Florida home. The sound of a knock at their door broke the quiet routine. Curious, Marlene walked over and opened the door. What she saw left her puzzled. A clown, standing there in a bright costume complete with orange hair, a red nose, a bouquet of flowers, and 2 cheerful balloons. Marlene's initial reaction was one of surprise and mild delight. She commented on how pretty it all looked, completely unaware of the grim twist that was about to follow. Suddenly, the clown reached into their costume, pulled out a gun, and shot Marlene in the face. Joe, who had joined his mother at the door, could only watch in horror as the clown turned and walked calmly back to a white Chrysler LeBaron. It drove off without a trace, leaving Marlene bleeding on the floor. Neighbors, alerted by the sound of gunfire, rushed to the scene, calling 911. Despite being rushed to the hospital, Marlene succumbed to her injuries 2 days later. The devastating loss left the Wellington community reeling. A clown-themed killing in the middle of summer, with no apparent motive, seemed straight out of a nightmare. The bizarre nature of the crime threw investigators off from the start. Marlene Warren was widely regarded as a kind, loving person with no known enemies. Who would want her dead? The method of her murder, a gunshot delivered by someone dressed as a clown, added an eerie layer of confusion. Detectives combed through the crime scene and began interviewing neighbors, acquaintances, and business associates. Still, they had little to go on. No physical evidence pointed to a suspect, and while the clown's costume and vehicle stood out, neither offered immediate answers. As the case stagnated, rumors and speculation began to swirl within the tight-knit community. Marlene's tragic death became the talk of Wellington, with some theorizing a professional hit, while others suspected personal motives. Born on April 15, 1950 in Michigan, Marlene Warren was raised in a loving middle-class family. Over the years, she carved out a life of comfort and success for herself, moving to Florida as an adult. She was described by those who knew her as kind, compassionate, and determined, a woman who always gave her best to her family and friends. In her teenage years, Marlene married her first husband, John Ahrens. Together, they had 2 sons, John Jr. and Joe. Although the couple eventually divorced, Marlene remained focused on building a better future for her children. Her drive and resilience never wavered. Eventually, Marlene met Michael Warren, a businessman who ran a car dealership and owned rental properties. Their partnership seemed like a perfect match. They combined their skills and built a thriving real estate portfolio. By 1990, the family lived in Wellington's exclusive Aero Club community, a neighborhood known for its private runway and luxurious homes. But tragedy struck in 1988, when Marlene's elder son, John Jr., died in a car accident. The loss devastated her. She threw herself into caring for her younger son, Joe, who was also deeply affected by his brother's death. Despite her efforts to maintain a stable household, cracks began to form in her marriage to Michael. As the Warrens' marriage faltered, rumors began to surface about Michael's relationship with a woman named Sheila Keene. Sheila worked at Michael's car dealership as a repossession agent. Witnesses frequently saw the two spending time together, both at work and outside of it, in ways that raised eyebrows. Friends and family noted that Marlene had expressed concerns about her husband's fidelity. She confided in her mother, even stating ominously, "If anything happens to me, Michael did it." This unsettling statement would later haunt those who loved her. Despite her suspicions, Marlene focused on her responsibilities as a mother and business partner. Meanwhile, her relationship with Michael continued to unravel. Investigators would later wonder if these personal tensions played a role in her murder. In the days leading up to the crime, a woman matching Sheila's description was seen purchasing a clown costume from a local store. The shopkeeper distinctly remembered the transaction, particularly because the woman had chosen accessories that closely matched the outfit worn by Marlene's killer. The Chrysler LeBaron used in the crime also caught investigators' attention. Abandoned shortly after the murder, it contained synthetic orange fibers and strands of hair. However, in 1990, forensic science lacked the sophistication to analyze this evidence thoroughly. The presence of the clown costume in the car linked someone to the murder, but detectives had no clear way to identify the person responsible. Leads grew cold, and the case gradually faded from public attention. In the years following Marlene's death, Michael's behavior raised suspicions. Instead of grieving, he seemed to move on quickly. By 2002, he had married Sheila Keene, the very woman suspected of being involved in Marlene's murder. The newlyweds left Florida and settled in Abingdon, Virginia, where they opened a burger joint called the Purple Cow. The move allowed them to start over, blending into a quiet, unassuming life. For Marlene's loved ones, however, the pain of her loss was compounded by the lack of justice. Joe, who had witnessed his mother's murder firsthand, struggled for years to cope with the trauma. Despite the passage of time, he and others who cared about Marlene remained determined to see her killer brought to justice. It wasn't until 2014 that Marlene's case saw a significant breakthrough. Advances in DNA technology prompted investigators to revisit the fibers and hair found in the Chrysler LeBaron. This time, the results pointed directly to Sheila Keene. The connection reignited interest in the case, and in 2017, Sheila was arrested in Virginia. The once quiet burger joint owner was now at the center of one of Florida's most infamous cold cases. For Marlene's family, the arrest brought a sense of relief, but it also reopened old wounds. The public's fascination with the case grew as more details emerged. Witnesses recalled Sheila's purchase of the clown costume, while others testified about her closeness to Michael. The puzzle pieces were finally coming together, and prosecutors prepared for a trial that promised to reveal shocking truths. While Sheila awaited trial, the spotlight also turned to Michael. Despite the overwhelming circumstantial evidence suggesting his involvement, many questioned how he had managed to evade accountability, especially given his relationship with both Marlene and Sheila. For Marlene's family, the trial was a bittersweet moment. While it offered hope for closure, it also forced them to relive the trauma of her murder. Sheila's eventual guilty plea to second-degree murder in 2023 provided some answers, but it left lingering questions about Michael's role in the crime. In April 2023, Sheila Keene surprised many by entering a guilty plea to second-degree murder. In exchange, she received a reduced sentence of just 12 years. For a case that had haunted Marlene's family for decades, the resolution felt both relieving and infuriating. While Sheila's admission brought some closure, it left many unanswered questions. Chief among them, why hadn't Michael been charged? The evidence against him, his affair with Sheila, Marlene's warning to her family, and his rapid remarriage, seemed too suspicious to ignore. Sheila's plea deal also stirred controversy due to the leniency of her sentence. Thanks to Florida's laws at the time of the murder, Sheila qualified for gain time, reducing her sentence based on good behavior. This meant she would serve less than the agreed 12 years. In November 2024, Sheila Keene walked free after serving just 7 years behind bars. Her release sparked widespread anger among Marlene's loved ones and the public. Despite her guilty plea, Sheila and her legal team continued to maintain her innocence. Sheila claimed she had only taken the plea deal to avoid the risk of a life sentence. This assertion cast a shadow over the justice Marlene's family thought they had achieved. For Joe, who had endured years of trauma from witnessing his mother's murder, Sheila's release was another painful reminder of how justice had eluded them. Michael's role in the case remains one of its greatest enigmas. From the start, his behavior raised red flags. Investigators noted his reluctance to cooperate fully, his swift remarriage to Sheila, and his decision to leave Florida shortly after the murder. Despite these suspicions, prosecutors were unable to gather enough evidence to charge him. Michael has consistently denied any involvement in Marlene's death, portraying himself as a grieving husband who found solace in a new relationship. For many observers, however, his actions tell a different story. By marrying Sheila and starting a new life with her, Michael appeared to confirm his complicity. Whether out of greed, fear, or love, his motives remain shrouded in mystery. For the residents of Wellington, Marlene Warren's murder is a chilling reminder of how quickly violence can shatter a peaceful community. The bizarre nature of the crime, committed by someone in a clown costume, added an unsettling layer to the tragedy. In the years following Marlene's death, the town grappled with fear and paranoia. The image of a smiling clown became a symbol of betrayal and hidden danger. Neighbors who once felt safe began locking their doors and eyeing each other with suspicion. Even decades later, the case remains a topic of conversation. For many, the lingering questions about Michael's involvement in Sheila's release make it difficult to move on. One of the most significant aspects of Marlene's case is how advances in forensic technology played a pivotal role in solving it. In 1990, the fibers and hair found in the Chrysler LeBaron couldn't be conclusively linked to any suspect. By 2014, however, DNA analysis had advanced to the point where investigators could re-examine the evidence. The results were groundbreaking, directly tying Sheila Keene to the crime. This breakthrough underscored the importance of preserving evidence in cold cases. The role of forensic science in this case has also inspired other investigations. It serves as a reminder that time, while it can hinder justice, can also reveal hidden truths. Amid the sensational details of her murder, it's important to remember who Marlene Warren was: a loving mother, a successful businesswoman, and a compassionate soul. Her friends and family recall her as someone who always put others first, even in the face of personal struggles. After the tragic loss of her eldest son, Marlene dedicated herself to supporting Joe and maintaining a sense of stability in their lives. Her strength and resilience were evident to everyone who knew her. Marlene's death left a void that can never be filled. For her family, the pain of losing her has been compounded by the knowledge that justice was never fully served. Despite Sheila's guilty plea, many questions about the case remain unanswered. Was Sheila acting alone, or was Michael the mastermind behind the murder? If Michael was involved, why has he never been held accountable? Some believe that Sheila's plea deal was a strategic move to protect Michael, ensuring he would never face charges. Others think Michael's wealth and connections may have shielded him from prosecution. Whatever the truth may be, the case highlights the complexities of justice. For Marlene's family, the hope for closure remains elusive, tied to the possibility that new evidence may one day emerge. The story of Marlene Warren's murder is one of betrayal at its core. Whether it was Michael, Sheila, or both, the crime was driven by greed, jealousy, and a complete disregard for human life. For Marlene's family, the betrayal cuts deep. The people who were supposed to care for her most, her husband and his alleged mistress, became the prime suspects in her murder. This betrayal has left scars that time can never heal. Even though Sheila has served her sentence, the fight for justice isn't over. Many of Marlene's loved ones continue to advocate for a deeper investigation into Michael's involvement. The case serves as a reminder that justice is not always straightforward. It requires persistence, courage, and the willingness to confront uncomfortable truths. For those who knew and loved Marlene, the hope for accountability keeps her memory alive. As we reflect on the haunting case of Marlene Warren, we are left with more questions than answers. Was Sheila truly the sole perpetrator, or was Michael the hidden hand behind the crime? And why, after all these years, has justice felt so incomplete for Marlene's family? What do you think happened that fateful day in May 1990? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We want to hear from you. If you found this story as compelling as we did, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. We bring you deep dives into true crime mysteries just like this one, and your support helps keep these stories alive. Until next time, stay curious, stay cautious, and most importantly, stay safe. Thanks for watching.